Strike up the band. We are back for another episode of Snap Tackle Pod with Dan Clisso, Preps KC. I'm Mick Schaefer of KSHB 41. Week 7 of the high school football season. So it's week 7 of us previewing games heading into Friday and Thursday night. Maybe a little Saturday morning sprinkled in there as we were down the home stretch here beyond of the regular season in Kansas and Missouri.
Yeah, I'm kind of at that point where I'm ready for playoffs.
No, I'm not. It's young football dad. I'm like, this goes so too fast.
We've got some good games. We got good games this week. We've got some really good games the next 2 weeks to close out the season, which should be interesting. So maybe I can see the playoffs, and that's part of the reason I want to get there. But no, it's this is the point of the season where you're thinking about the playoffs and where teams are going to be, and I don't know. For me, it's like I kind of start looking over the edge and not focusing on week. That's why I'm not playing, because I'm too busy looking ahead.
I'm ready for the playoffs in the NFL. That's what I'm ready for. Let's just get to it. Okay.
I
want a 17 game high school regular season. Okay, let's flip those two. And college, I want that. I
could go with more games for college. I think, and I love the NFL. But is it wrong to say that we're 4 weeks in, we pretty much know who's good and who's not? Let's just get to the playoffs.
I'm just it just controls my life. I don't know who's good. People might get worse, people might get better. I don't know. I'm just it's a long haul. It's from mid-July now to, if you cover the Chiefs, mid-February. And that is,
well, it's just a hair shorter than a Missouri high school basketball season. So, which starts mid-October and, in terms of practice, and then is done in, middle of March. So just a hair shorter.
Yeah. Give me more high school football, because this is it for us, unless my daughter goes out for football, Dion. We've got basically a year and a half left of high school football of what's, I know a lot of, parents, coaches out there can relate. I mean, these are some of the best moments of your lives, right? This is a family, these Friday nights, nothing tops it, win or lose.
Yeah, it's kind of, for me, it's weird because it's just like a new crop of people come to Preps KC every year because their kids are playing football. So yeah. It's kind of nice in that sense that you kind of renew that. But no, for somebody who has a kid,
they stay the same age, those parents.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. The parents keep rolling on through, and we love the fact that they're there and that they're paying attention, they're engaged, and that we're here to help them along with scores and all the info. But no, it's a good season. It's really been an interesting season all the way around. There's some teams that you got your usual players out there in terms of teams that are the good. We got a few that are different. It's always fun this time around, and it's always fun when you see some different teams jump in and take that rise. Like 4 years ago, an undefeated Oak Park was not something you'd be talking about. No. And you throw Gardner in that group as well. And, Grain Valley's been pretty good, but they haven't been to the point where they've got maybe a Simone finalist / maybe winner, a threat to win a state championship in Class 5. Of course, I can remember when I started working at the Examiner, they were a small Class 2 team. So that tells you how much that town has grown in the last 30 years. But no, it's a good run. And we're starting to get down to the point where teams are really starting to figure out who they are and getting positioning. And some teams are dealing with injuries, and that's always an interesting thing too, because the team you thought you were going to be in week 1 may not be the team you are in week 7.
Yeah. A couple of those teams this year are traditional powers, but probably had their best shots at winning a state title this year for the first time in several years is St. Thomas Aquinas and Rockhurst. Two teams that played a game for the ages last week. Rock of Ages, because Rockhurst comes all the way back from a 28-point deficit. And you say it all the time, Dion, don't let Aquinas get up on you because you're not coming back. Rockhurst came back. How did it happen?
They played defense and kind of shut down that Rockhurst offense. That being said, they still give up another 10 points in regulation after being down 28. They got an onside kick, one of the best onside kicks I've seen in a long time. I don't know if you can make it bounce up any higher to the 6'4" tight end that was coming in to get it. There was a great onside kick, and then Rock just kept playing. There's something about this Rockhurst team the last few weeks of how they played, beating Bentonville late, and a game they led the entire way.
Yeah.
Basically controlling the game against Bishop Miege. It was 21-14, but it was 21-7 almost the entire game. Miege scored a late touchdown, and then rallying to come back to beat St. Thomas Aquinas. And it's one of those things that Dean Bax, who covered the game for us, he was texting me some stuff, and then he's like, well, they scored 2 touchdowns in the span of 20 seconds. I'm like, well, there's a chance. And then I looked up and, as we're finishing stuff up, and I look up and I'm like, well, this was a 1-score game. So I flip over to the stream, heard some interesting play-by-play by the 2 St. Thomas Aquinas people. I'm not sure if they still have a job this week, but we'll see. As I went back on Saturday and I went through the whole game, they went from talking trash on Rockhurst. Now, these are not students, by the way. These are adults.
Okay.
They're like 40. They're like class of 99, class of 2000, because they put their names up there on the beginning. And they were talking trash on Rockhurst, talking about how they now just try not to get embarrassed. That being said, Kelly Donahoe had the same quote saying, we were at one point trying not to get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And they come back, and then they go, as the comeback happens, they start questioning the play calling of Aquinas, and then they're in full meltdown mode at the end. So that's as interesting as the game, is the commentary from the Halo Network. But no, we'll see. Like I said, that's the epitome of the Homer broadcast was that right there, because they turned on Aquinas at the end when things weren't going their way, and they started questioning calls. But no, great win for Rockhurst. Aquinas has been in a couple games this year where, they were in the Blue Valley West game where they got back and forth and won that game, which are kind of uncharacteristic Aquinas games, because they usually play great defense and they run the ball. They don't get in shootouts, and they've been in a couple crazy shootouts this year. 1-1, lost 1, which is probably about how it goes if you get into shootouts. You hope to you end up winning about 50% of those games.
Yep, absolutely. And what was it? It was Aquinas the win for 2 at the end to win it, and Rockhurst stopped them. No,
they kicked it and they blocked it.
They blocked it. That's right. Saw the highlights, but I've seen a million highlights since Friday, and they all run together.
Yes,
that's why a lot of times decide to go for 2 at that point.
Yes,
yeah, 2 yards from their offense over kicking it sometimes.
Yeah, so they went to kick it and they got blocked, and it was a crazy game. I mean, I think that as Rockhurst started coming back, from what I could see, that when I kind of rewatched the stream and fast forward to the stream and rewatched the entire game, it just kind of got through and then had the story. The momentum of that game got away from Aquinas, and then once things started going for Rock, they did. And Dean, when he was texting, we were texting back and forth, he's like, craziest game I ever saw. And I said, it's the biggest comeback I ever saw but didn't see was Rockhurst and Blue Springs in 1996, I think. Liddell Betts' senior year. So I think it was 90, no, it might have been 95. Blue Springs was down 30-6 at the half. And Rockhurst had done whatever they wanted. It was a Saturday game because they shared stadiums back then. And Blue Springs would play, especially early in the season, they play games on Saturday, not Thursday. They didn't like the Thursday games, so they'd play Saturday. And so it's a Saturday game. Much of the staff of the Examiner and people that we ran with were at that game, watched the first half. Missouri was starting to play, I think, at 8:00. They were out west. I think they were playing Wyoming. And so we may have gone to an establishment that served adult beverages at halftime because that game was over. Went to watch the Missouri game, and then Huey Counts was a sports editor at the time of the Examiner, and a couple other coaches from Blue Springs come walking in about an hour and a half later, and they're like, shouldn't have left. They put this is the thing that, listen to these names. They put Liddell Betts, 7-8 year NFL running back, 1,000-yard rush for the Reds, the former Redskins, now Commanders. They put him in to take the opening kickoff. He runs it back for a touchdown. Put some guy named Brandon Lloyd, who was a sophomore. Yeah. So it would have been 96. Yes, he was a sophomore.
NFL guy.
Put him in at quarterback. And then he led them back along with Betts in that game. Funny thing, though, he didn't really play quarterback the rest of the year, and they lost to Rockhurst in the playoffs. There was a higher ups kid who was a quarterback in the central office, and he ended up playing a little more. I think there's some regret there on the coaching staff. Maybe they should have let Brandon Lloyd play quarterback the rest of the way. They may have won state championship that year. But that being said, 2 big time names. When you got 2 NFL players on your team, get them the ball in their hands as much as you can, and you will win. So that's my story on the game. It's the greatest game I never saw. I saw half of it, But that's what Friday night Rockhurst and Aquinas remind me of. It's like if you had left when Aquinas scored a minute into the third quarter when it was 28-0, you wouldn't have believed what would happen after that point.
Yeah. Over in Kansas, Gardner Olathe North was a nail biter, a classic, and I found it interesting and daunting for the rest of 6A. And that, like, on a night where Gardner didn't have its best offensive game, certainly not like it was the week before against Mill Valley. The defense traveled. Now, I know the game was at Gardner, but the defense was there. Gave up just 7 points. The other 7 was a huge 98-yard fumble return for Olathe North. Otherwise, that defense held strong once again and looks like it could be just lights out this year.
I think there's a guy by the name of Mark Debiak, I think is his name. He spent the night in the Olathe North backfield, just kind of throwing people around. Really impressive.
Is he the Spring Hill transfer?
I don't know. I know he's really 13.
good. He's the Spring Hill transfer.
But the defense played well. I think the Flexbone's a fantastic offense, but when it goes bad, it goes bad. And the mesh points get off, and the ball's on the ground. And
I hate it. I hate watching it. It should be banned from schools, like drugs or something.
No, the ball was on the ground for Gardner. The ball was on the ground for Gardner, and that allowed Olathe North, like you said, had one return for a touchdown. No, it's I think Olathe North is a pretty solid team, and I think they showed well in that game. They took advantage of the mistakes that Gardner had, but Gardner doesn't want that to happen in the postseason, much like it did in the state championship game last year. So anytime you have that flex bone, if those mesh points are off, or you're not having you're not just totally focused, that ball is bouncing around back there, and anything can happen when that happens.
Yeah. Wyandotte and Harmon, big game for both there. Wyandotte gets a win, but Harmon had a lead for a while.
First time in 5 years that they had led in a game. Harmon got the lead 7-6. Wyandotte pulled away from him, but you could see kind of the steps that Harmon is taking. They lost 2 seasons. I mean, the Wyandotte County KCK schools, did not play in 2020. They did some kind of spring thing where they scrimmage each other or whatever. I mean, and then in 2021, Harmon played about 2 games, had a COVID issue, and they shut their season down. I don't know the details of it. I feel like there was an administrative issue there that they just didn't have support from administration. Pat Hansen was their coach, and he was basically told they were shutting the season down. He was not really, so they basically had 2 years of no football. So they're now in the, third year of trying to come back, or, second year trying to come back. And the fact that they have, 60 kids out says a lot about Keith O'Neill and his staff. And then on the other side, Wyandotte has struggled at times, but really played a good game last week. They've got Washington this week. It's going to be a big test for them. That's the DM Law Metro matchup game again this week. Yep. But it is going to be a big test for them because Washington, I think, is pretty good. Their only losses to Wamego. So no, I think, or in Atchison, they got beat by Atchison last week, so they got 2 losses. But no, it's good for both those schools to have some success. They can both take something out of that game that Wyandotte and Harmon had last week.
Yep. All right, and this next question is about the valleys. 3 valleys hit some peaks last week. Mill Valley bounces back in a big way after that loss to Gardner and puts up a 77 burger on Olathe South. Grain Valley, big win over Belton. And Blue Valley was leading Miege for a long time in that game, gave the Stags a scare. What do you take away from that 3-part question?
I think Mill Valley is pretty good, and I think they kind of righted the ship. And as we discussed before we started recording, they tend to play angry after losses. That coaching staff does a good job of getting them ready to play the next week. But it was a 21-21 game early on. I mean, and
back and forth.
Back and forth. And like Olathe South had the upper hand. It was like Mill Valley had to score to keep up. But at 21-21, it got away, and they scored, got to 77. Grain Valley defense played better. That's the side of the ball. It's going to have to get better. Ty Williams, 190 yards on 18 carries, so still 10 a clip. Only 1 touchdown this week.
You're not getting it 30 times.
Well, he didn't play much in the second half. So the sophomore came in and played, and We'll see the rest of the way what they do with him, because they play Columbia Hickman. Not good. I mean, there's not good, there's bad, and then there's Columbia Hickman. They play Chrisman and Raytown. Not good the last 3 weeks. So Ty Williams could have some big numbers. Now, Green Valley has to go and take care of their business. I mean, every week is a game. You got to play somebody. Of the three of their left, the Columbia Hickman one is easily the worst of the three. But Chrisman and Raytown are struggling this year. So your Green Valley, you got to keep bad teams losing, and that's what they've got to do. And Ty Williams, we'll see. He's at 1,300 yards in 6 games.
Well, the best thing about he's on a winning team, right? That always helps, because they'll often see guys putting up crazy numbers on a below 500 team. This is a good team he's on, and he's dominated.
Well, and like I said, it's 10 yards a carry against everybody, and they aren't running him 30 times a game, and he's got 1,300 yards. I mean, that's the thing. And that
you got 1,300 yards already. Oh,
yes, and that's against the quality of their schedule. I mean, this is their schedule softens up the rest of the way, and that's what I'm saying. And no disrespect to Raytown or Chrisman, they're not having good seasons. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, your record is what your record is at this point. So no, he's got a chance to do something good at this point of your Green Valley. We're just trying to keep everybody healthy, get your wins. That's why you saw the sophomore probably get in there and run a lot last week, and build your depth, and get yourself in position. The beauty for Green Valley is they've beaten everybody. If they get Raytown and Chrisman, I think they will have beaten everybody in their district. So there's literally no way for them not to be the number 1 seed, because they have unless they would fall to 3, which I don't think they are. They've got the bump over everybody. They took care of their business when they needed to. So it's definitely a situation there. Their big thing is if they get out of their district, they would probably draw Webb City in the quarterfinals. And the quarterfinals is where Green Valley has been for 4 years in a row, just banging their head at the quarterfinal level.
Yep. All right, let's do, before we look ahead to this week, let's do a little segment called the Undefeateds here. Dion, help me out here. Still a handful of undefeateds left. Lee Summit North, correct?
Yes.
Gardner Edgerton.
Yes.
No longer St. Thomas Aquinas, but Oak Park.
Yes.
Is among the undefeateds. Lee Summit West.
Yes.
How about the Lee Summit District? You have Free State, maybe surprising 5-0 at this point. Lewisburg, correct?
Yes.
St. Joe Central?
Nope, lost last week.
They lost last week. Okay.
Florida Sage.
And then East Buck. And I might be forgetting a couple others. Am I?
Pleasant Hill.
Pleasant Hill. Yes, I have. I don't know why I just skipped over Pleasant Hill. Yes, Pleasant Hill.
And if you want to stay in the Preps KC coverage area, Adrian.
Oh, let's go. Let's give me a little Adrian. I'm all about the Class 1. Right?
No, they're up in Class 2. They're probably going to go 9-0 and maybe the 4 seed in their district.
Nuts. Missouri's nuts. Missouri small town is nuts.
If you, Cole Young, our resident Adrian expert, PA announcer for them, and also
from there, right?
Yes, he's from there. You guys are from there. We were talking about the districts.
I can't get that. I never could tell the difference between Adrian and Archie. They love hearing that.
Yes. It's easy now because Archie didn't play 11-man football anymore. So that's their own.
They're really going to take offense to that.
Yes. So Adrian is in a district with Lamar, Butler, and I can't remember the other one. There's another undefeated. There's Lamar. Lamar has 1 loss.
There's going to be 4 undefeated teams in that district.
There are 3 undefeated teams right now. Lamar has 1 loss, but their losses to a Class 4 or 5 team. So they're up at the top of that district. And then Lafayette County's undefeated. Lafayette County's in a district with like everybody else has a combined 4 wins.
Yeah.
And if you look at the map, it's like they took Butler and Adrian and kept them down with all these teams over here. And then it's kind of crazy. It's like there's Butler and Adrian here and all the rest of them are here. And like Butler and Adrian are closer to this other district where there's other teams that aren't that good. I mean, if you're Adrian, you were probably, 15, 20 students from being the number 1 team in 1A or Class 1 and just running roughshod over the Class 1 to being on the road in the second round of the playoffs and losing to Lamar by 30.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of where the line fell. And nothing against any of the teams in Class 1, but they took when that move was made and they redistricted that, or changed it so Class 1 was no more than 37 teams. It just so happened that all the power was taken out of Class 1. And good for North Platte, who's having a very good season. Got a good one over Mid Buchanan last week. That allows them to kind of get up there. But when you take East Buchanan and Adrian, who were in the state championship game last year, and you push them up, but there's not just them. I mean, there's a lot of other schools that were pretty good Class 1 teams that are up in Class 2. Mid Buchanan right there with them. Yeah. It changes that whole dynamic. So yes, Lafayette County, Adrian. I knew we were forgetting one, and Lafayette County's undefeated. So.
So who's the most surprising of the undefeated teams left?
I would say Lee Summit West. Now, surprising before the season, yes, because I thought there would be
they're on a collision course next week, right? With Lee Summit North being undefeated.
They close out their season with Lee Summit North and Liberty North back to back.
Okay.
So we're gonna know
at the end of the year.
Yeah, we're gonna know all about those three teams in the last 2 weeks of the season. I think, am I surprised that Lee Summit West is better? No, I'm surprised that they are undefeated because their schedule is tough and they played some good teams. But really, if you look at how they've played outside of the week 1 overtime win that they were trailing 10-0 in the fourth quarter and came back and won that game at Liberty, they really haven't been in a close game. They gave up some points to Blue Spring South last week. I mean, they were up big in that game. Blue Spring South came back and made it, I think, 40-28 or 41-28. But I was talking to a friend who was at that game and said, the running back's pretty good. The receiver's pretty good. Their defense is pretty solid. And I think they're a good sum of their parts. I think they're playing well as a team. And so while they may not have the brand names that some of the other schools that are undefeated, they really are doing a good job. And I think they're well coached. I think that staff has really done a good job with that group. I mean, there was a lot of, last year didn't end well for them. And so they have rebounded out of that and really done a great job. And that says a lot about the kids, a lot about the staff, and what they've done this year, and really been focused week in, week out. So that they're probably the most surprising. Free State might be there too.
Yeah.
But they had been last year. They went on a little run too, so I'm not really that surprised because I think they've got some good players there, and they always seem to have talent. But they really have done. They've kind of been pretty dominant. I mean, they have been as dominant as anybody. And maybe Gardner Schedule's been a little harder than Free State.
Well, and a lot like Lee Summit West. Free State's going to close with Lawrence, rival, and then Olathe North, right?
Yes.
So a couple prove-it games there at the end.
Yeah, so that'll be a good test for them as they finish up the next 2 weeks. But I played Shawnee Mission South last week, played Shawnee Mission North this week, who are improved. So those are good tests for them. I talked to Coach Stewart last week, and he said he likes that Shawnee Mission South and Shawnee Mission North are better teams, but it really helps them stay focused week in, week out, knowing that yes, we may be a little bit better than those teams, but they are improved, and we've got to take care of our business and not get caught.
Teams that played like Olathe North well. It was one of the best teams in the Sunflower League in 6A East. So
yeah, they definitely, those two teams are better, and they can put up points. That's the difference. That they've struggled in the past. They've struggled offensively, but they're really putting up some points.
Shawnee Mission North isn't running Flexbone anymore. You got to talk to Andy Walter. What's going on?
I know.
He
told me, he said, well,
the other day doing an athlete of the week for one of their outstanding cross country runners, and I'm watching practice. I'm like, this shotgun with the one back set. We're spreading receivers out. What's going on? Do you have to give up his Flexbone card?
I don't know. I knew they said we talked to him earlier in the year, and he said they were a little different. So that definitely
outstanding quarterback, a guy that can run. I wonder how much that had to do with it.
Yeah, that definitely changes how things are, and that's what I think the good coaches do. They do a good job of matching their talent to what they want to do, and then also saying, "Hey, we don't have that talent. Let's change it up."
Yep. All right, let's get to the next.
Had to make an air. What's the lifetime of an AirPod? That's a question I'm having because I'm now in season
Not
3
cool
with
enough
these.
to have them. I got the attachments like you. I got the old school headphones still.
I'm
If
in
I can find them.
year 3, and I'm beginning to believe that 3 years might be the extent of it. And the funny thing is the person who kind of got me on that trail was one Harold Wamsgans, who doesn't even have a smartphone.
Who's 80?
Yeah, he's in his 80s. Because I said something. We were doing our show, and I said something about people who are in their 70s, and he's like, "You don't offend me. I'm not in my 70s." And so, yeah,
80s.
yeah, he's like 82. He goes, "Well, how long are those things supposed to last?" I'm like, "That's a fair point." Because I mean, your iPhones start to go glitchy after a couple, 3 years. Everything's designed to run about 2, 3 years, and then it's
Everything's designed to buy more Apple products.
yes. So I'm wondering if my AirPods are starting to. I had redone them last week. I kind of I don't know if updated them or whatever, updated my computer, which of course caused me not to be able to be on TV on Friday night because my camera.
Oh yeah, I heard you punted on us.
It wasn't for a lack of trying. The camera would not. Camera would not connect for anything. So FaceTime, Zoom, whatever. Restarted my computer, which is not something I like to do on a Friday night because that's time spent not doing anything. And then, shortly after that, everything popped back in, and Nick and I were able to Zoom after the fact. We should have recorded that and put that on the web. And Nick and I just talking high school football. But no, yeah, it was definitely. Sometimes when you update your computer, it turns something off or something gets flipped off, and you don't really know it until you have to restart it again and let everything kind of go again.
I got to quit and update notification on Zoom right now. So let's zoom through this puppy before we have to restart as well. Let's look at the Remax Big 3 games of the week this week, Dion. Over on the Kansas side, Miege and Aquinas doesn't get bigger than that.
No, I think that's kind of a standard.
Outstanding this year.
Yeah, and I'll be curious.
Both losses are to Rockhurst, right?
Mm-hmm. By a combined 8 points. So they're the combined 8 points away from being undefeated between the two of them. I'm curious to see how Aquinas bounces back. I think they will. And I think Miege had gotten a dogfight with Blue Valley last week, and I think that was a good test for them. I mean, did they come out a little flat after the loss to Rockhurst? I don't know. I think that when John Price is playing for Blue Valley because he missed a couple games, I think that they're definitely a much better team. I think that changes their dynamic. So that was they had him last week, and so they were able to get out on Miege. But no, I think which Aquinas defense is going to show up is the question, because they've had game. I mean, against Blue Valley Northwest, they were dominant.
Yeah.
Played especially the first half. I mean,
they
put
Blue
themselves
Valley North dominant against St. James, and then 90% of their points have come in
2 games. Yeah,
2 games. Yeah.
So they give it 40, a couple different games. So that's the question right there against a Miege offense that can score and does it, very balanced. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they do everything. So that's kind of the test for me is what that Aquinas defense does.
Yeah, it's going to be our game of the week, by the way, on KSHB 41. Another game, it's not going to be our game of the week, but we're going to be live there on Friday is Lewisburg at Tonganoxie. We're kind of traveling out with our weather team now here, that it's getting cooler in the fall, and we're going to do a big event at Tonganoxie where the undefeated 5-0 Lewisburg Wildcats come to town, Dion.
Yeah, coming off a game where Eudora
barely undefeated. Yeah.
Yes, barely undefeated. Eudora drove inside the 15 like 4 times, and after they were up, after they scored their first touchdown and came in with nothing. And Lewisburg wins 13-7. Tongies had a loss to Spring Hill earlier. But they're really good. That's a great place to watch a football game. I'm kind of jealous of the weather team. If I
Spring Hill or no,
Tongi, and nothing against Spring Hill, but
Spring Hill, baby, the pasture of pain.
That's right, pasture of pain. Tongi's great. You kind of come over the hill on 24 Highway, and you see the lights there, and it was really cool when it was grass. They have turf now, so it's a little more antiseptic. It was a great field right there on the highway, and you see it. You can see the lights from a long way away, and it should be a good one. I think Lewisburg is passed a lot of tests, but this is one they've got to be careful because Tongi's got some players. They can score. They play pretty good defense. Declan Battle, quarterback from Lewisburg, had another good game. But no, it's just a good Frontier League football game.
Yeah, absolutely. A good Sunflower League game rounds us out on the Big Three, you have Olathe West at Olathe East, which is basically both their home fields, right?
Yes.
Seaback?
Yeah, Seaback, both their home fields next to the other school that shares it in Olathe Northwest. I'm curious to see how Olathe East plays in this game because I think they have really taken big steps forward. And now they're in the
played Free State close. They've got 3 other good wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is the step where I think they're better than Olathe West. So now they've got to go out and keep taking care of their business and make sure that in a game that last year would have gone the other way probably because Olathe West was probably a little bit better team. Now Olathe East has the upper hand. And I think this is a good test for them to say, hey, we're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Olathe West, by the way, a freshman starting quarterback for the Owls. On the Missouri side, I like this game. East Buck at St. Michael, but not at St. Michael's, right? It's at one of the Lee Summits.
I think it's at Lee Summit West because the other two are home. So that takes care of that right there. They rent from Lee Summit schools. Yes, this is a very good game for both schools. Probably East Buck's toughest game since they beat Savannah in week 2. St. Michael, good win at Van Horn last week. They're kind of driving down. Time was running down. They had a choice of either kicking a field goal or going for it for the touchdown, getting the win. They went for it, got the touchdown. And this is East Buck's going to be challenged. Their defense has really been what's led them all season long. And the Klein running back is not as big of they're a little more balanced this year. And I think they're more relying on their defense. And this is going to be a test because St. Michael's can throw it around. Cam's on their quarterback's really good. I think he's a 3-year starter at this point, or at least a 2-year starter. So really, this is a good test between 2 Class 2 teams that I have in my rankings. They're not. St. Michael's is not ranked. They haven't cracked the top 10 yet in the state, but 2 teams that are worthy of being ranked in Class 2.
Absolutely. Platte County at Belton is another rematch Big 3 game. Why is that in there?
Well, I think
Belton got enough. Can they hang with Platte County?
Well, Platte County is when you play a lot of sophomores, you're gonna have games where you look great. You're gonna have games where you look bad. They've had both those. And I think Belton's a pretty solid team. I think this is a game for both these teams late in the year to kind of, find out where they are. And it's probably, I think, a pretty evenly matched game. Belton coming off a tough loss to Grand Valley in a game that they kind of got not really blown out. It wasn't like they go up 60, but we're not really a part of for most of the game. So no, I think this is, late in the season is when these 2 coaches tend to get their teams playing better. Todd Vaughn at Belton and Bill Lutz at Platte County, 2 veteran guys in the Metro. 2 of the guys that I think most people tell you they do it the right way and are always getting their teams playing better. So I looked at this one and it kind of was like I had another game that I was looking at, and then I was like, you know what? I think Platte County Belton's gonna be a good one. So that's good. I think that has a chance to be a good game. There's with the Big 3 at this point of the season, like, Lee Summit West Ray Peck is a pretty good game, but Lee Summit West is going to be in big games the next 2 weeks. So, that's, you kind of want to spread around. Like I said, I think this could be, a pretty good game.
Yep. And lastly here, it's Pleasant Hill hosting Warrensburg. Pleasant Hill undefeated. How good's Warrensburg?
They're 3-3. They lost by 1 point to Odessa last week, 42-41. Lost by 1 score to Harrisonville. Offensively, they could put up points. Defensively, they've struggled. They've given up, 50 plus to Harrisonville, 42 to Odessa. They lost to Capital City early in the year. Those are the 3 losses. But this is a test for Pleasant Hill. They went on the road to Odessa, got the win. Went on the road to Oak Grove, got the win. This is kind of the last hurdle as they go through, and it's also against a Class 4 team. So then they're Class 4 this year. So I think this is a test for them, especially with their defense, which is kind of the side of the ball they tend to lean on. They're going to see some good athletes. The quarterback at Warrensburg, if I'm not mistaken, is the offensive coordinator from Central Missouri's son. So he's pretty talented and a guy to keep an eye on. So no, I wouldn't call it a trap game, but it's for Pleasant Hill. You've gone out and done the work on the road. You can't get lazy at home. Yeah. Because Warrensburg is going to come in and they're going to score the ball. So you can't get lazy at home. So this is a good test for both these teams.
All right, a couple other games here. 2 on the Missouri side, 2 on the Kansas side. Take with these from these what you will. Dion. I like the Rockhurst at Blue Springs game. Maybe it's maybe a little bit of a mismatch, but it's tradition, right? It's nostalgia right there. Rock and Blue Springs. And
Yeah, that's about the only thing it is. I mean, right
Park
now,
Hill, Park Hill at Lee Summit. Sneaky, maybe good game there, especially
I think so too.
Is making that their game of the week. And then on the Kansas side, what I had there on the Gardner at Lawrence. It's kind of the third step of their 3-week tough stretch of Mill Valley and Olathe North, and now a good Lawrence team. So I like that game as well. And the last but not least, Blue Valley Northwest at Blue Valley Southwest. I think this is the battle for who's the best Blue Valley team, correct?
Yeah, I think so. We'll start with that one. I like that game. I'll be curious to see. I don't know how much healthier Blue Valley Northwest is this week than they were, say, 3 weeks ago. I think they
played last week, right?
Hoffman played. So, that team's looking to get healthy as the season goes on. Blue Valley Southwest has answered the bell, everything except me age. So this is if they can get this one, this kind of says that they are really a threat. This is a big one for them. What was the other Kansas game?
Lawrence.
So here's my question. Lawrence loses to Shawnee Mission East, Flexbone. Will it be better against the Flexbone second time around against a team that's better at it than anybody else? That's what that's what the Lawrence loss to Shawnee Mission East is the one that just jumps up and goes, what was that? I think Shawnee Mission East is better, but I think Lawrence is a better team. And I'm assuming it's probably inability to stop the Flexbone because Lawrence has bounced right back from that. Lee Summit Park Hill, I'm excited about that game being on Spectrum because I get to lay eyes on these teams. Haven't had a chance to yet outside of some highlights. And Lee Summit did a great job with Oak Park last week. I mean, they were back and forth. Oak Park kind of always was like 2-score, 1-score, 2-score, 1-score. They were always kind of a couple scores ahead, but Lee Summit answered a ton last week.
Oh, let's get back to Lawrence here. I had them beating Shawnee Mission East, but losing to Olathe East.
That's what it was Olathe East.
It was a close game, 31-28 against East. Lawrence won that a few weeks ago in week 3.
Olathe East was the over 2 days. Yeah. So, I mean, they struggled with the Shawnee Mission East, though. They did. It wasn't an easy win. They did struggle.
Shawnee Mission East and outside of Olathe North has played Gardner tougher than anybody else.
Yes, true.
40-57.
True. So, no, Lee Summit Park Hill's definitely won. And then the Blue Springs Rockhurst, I'd love to say I think it's going to be a good game, but I don't. The one thing that will help Blue Springs is I don't think Kelly will run up the score on his former assistants. And so I think that he has respect for that. But Blue Springs a little undermanned this year. Same with Blue Springs South. They're both kind of younger teams. And Blue Springs South's case, the 50-50 games that they won last year have all gone against them at 0-6. So they haven't had any luck there. And they're kind of just young and figuring that out. But Rock Blue Springs, seen plenty of them that were great games, but I don't know if this is going to be one of them.
Okay. Sounds good. What else? Anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
MIZ, baby. 5-0. Big
game.
Hey, it is a big game. And
they're a vulnerable LSU team, especially defensively.
Yeah. I don't want to lose it, but I'd feel better now at 5-0 instead of being like 4-1 and 3-2 and losing that game. But I think at home they'll play better. And hats off to a guy, Brady Cook, who I was not a fan of. I think he's played fantastic. On
the Cook train there.
Well, I didn't know until last week that he spent the summer at the Manning passing camp. So I'm not going to lie. I think that has something to do with it. And a new offensive coordinator that is tailoring things to his skill set, which is kind of
a good quarterback, a dedicated quarterback who wanted nothing in life other than to play football for Missouri. You got to latch on to those guys. If you're
here's the deal.
Not too many of them out there.
Yes, I know that fact because that's the only thing they used to describe him all last season because he struggled so much. So every broadcast, that was their first note. And
really I really wanted to be quarterback at Oklahoma State. I feel like there should be more credentials required than that.
Well, like I said, he's done well. They've done well defensively as well. I think they've played pretty good, and happy about that. And then on the basketball side, take recruiting rankings for what you say, but the Missouri, as of right now, for a couple different recruiting services, has the #1 class of 24
the golden era of Mizzou sports. Dion, okay.
Somebody's like, well, it's a long way to August until they sign. And I'm like, or December, whenever April when they sign. I'm like, I don't care. I'll take that number one ranking.
You need to get December to get here. You get to make sure Williams Nwaneri is in the fold.
I think he'll be fine.
Okay.
I think he'll be fine. Yeah, but no, it's in terms of basketball, all I ask, I'm 52. I would hope that I've got 20 to 30 more years on this earth. I just want a Final Four at this point. That's all I want. Final Four.
Okay.
So when they show that graphic
that's all it is.
Four in a row. No Princeton's in front of us or whoever,
Hey, and listen, well, college football playoff in there as well. It's probably going to be easier.
It will be easier. Georgia can't be unbelievable forever. I mean, you'd think.
Hey, they're vulnerable this year.
Well, and are they sticking with divisions next year in the SEC with the?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Down to only like 6 conference games because it just means more. Just kidding. We just want to win, and we've rigged the whole thing. Okay.
I really don't. I mean, Oklahoma, Texas coming doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, some of us were smart enough to get out early and get the money. Others.
Yeah. How much money did you get on that, Dion? How much did you profit from?
I did not profit from it, but the university.
You're losing a lot more now too. So I don't know.
It's the cash that makes it go. That's how that South End Zone got built.
It makes what go? What money?
We went to back
after you lose a football game, Dion. Are you walking out of the parking lot thinking, you know what, we got beat by Kentucky, but hey, a lot of.
You had to bring up Kentucky. We can't
just got richer. Okay, so let's go celebrate.
Hey, I'm not. Here's a question for you: is our new NIL law in the state of Missouri helping getting those basketball recruits?
That helps absolutely.
I mean, here's the things.
Are you kidding me? Yes.
When Williams signs on the line in December, the spigot opens and the cash is his.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
That's not happening in Oklahoma.
No, they're not.
They don't have that law in Oklahoma.
Down there. I don't know. No. The Missouri legislature did a great thing there.
We still can't gamble on anything in this because that's sick and wrong. But
inconsistencies every states and what they
give a high school kid
they don't allow.
Give a high school kid a truck to drive around the last half of his semester if he stays in school or whatever. Why not?
Yeah. All right. We've already gone like 45 minutes here. We got to jump out of here. All right. We promise. Well, I don't promise, but hopefully Dion will be on KSHB 41 under the lights.
It's working right now, as you see.
It's working right now. That's good. And we'll have all the highlights from the very best games from around the area. So check that out on Friday night. And we'll see you next time right here on Snap Tackle Pod.